I'm Simon Mitchell. I'm the founder of Photo Enterprise, and right now I'm with Gardner, the internationally acclaimed photographer and filmmaker, and his pioneering work has won him many awards. You can deliver technically and logistically complex shots with expert use of light and tension. Can you expand on that?
Well, I'm an old advocate of available light. Now, available light isn't necessarily what it seems. For me, available light is what you have available to you at the time.
Right.
So, available light to me can be a carload of lighting, or it can be a rucksack with just a couple of speed lights in it, and just the basics I need to make it work. So it can just be that. But it's about choosing the lighting for the correct job and then making it happen. So a little bit of forward planning is really what's behind my lighting.
Right, fantastic. And if you need to photograph a group of people who can't all be there at the same time, what do you do?
Well, it depends how important it is. I really try to push my client, if at all possible, to get everyone there, if at all possible. But if it's really important they can't get everybody there, I'll leave a gap for the person who's missing, and we'll shoot that person separately from the same camera angle, with a camera at the same height, using exactly the same lighting, and we will put them in there in post-production. I don't like doing it, but you know, if needs must and the job is important enough, we will do it. We'll do whatever it takes to get the job done.
Fantastic. Well, I've seen some of your shots where you've done that, like the one of the two buses in London.
Yep, that was for L'Oreal, and that was, goodness me, that was a real challenge, but we really enjoyed doing it.
Yeah, fantastic. One of the projects you've worked on was the Descendants. How did that come about?
You know what, I started that so long ago, I can't exactly remember where the idea came from. I know it sounds like people think I'm being evasive, but I'm just getting old, I think. I don't know, I just love history, and what I've been doing was shooting a lot of historical reenactments at the time, and I think we were just talking over coffee with some of the crew, was saying something like, I wonder what the real Elizabeth I or the real Henry VIII would have thought if they'd been there, and it sort of evolved from there. You know, it's one of those things, and it's a project that's still live. I'm still doing it. It'd be nice to do a book one day with it, but it's not something I'm doing lots and lots of, you know, lots of other things going on.
Yes. Well, certainly, I thoroughly enjoy it. How did you trace the living descendants?
Bit of detective work, but working with the, whether it's the museums or the associations who are connected with that person. We research it, we'll speak to them, and they often know who they are, and they will put us in touch directly, and we'll just send them an email and they pass our email on them. We keep our fingers crossed and hope that the direct descendant is open to being photographed in this way. They mostly are. A couple have said no.
It's a shame. Yeah, it's a shame. But the ones that I've seen, it's fantastic, because I think it brings history alive.
I'm really flattered that you think that, and I think that's great, but for me, bringing history alive is one thing, but I just want to increase awareness of history, because I think that there isn't enough awareness of history and where we all come from. So I think if I can do anything to raise awareness of the world's heritage, you know, and history, that's really what I'm after.
Well, it certainly puts across a really great message.
Thank you.
Is there a photo you've taken that has particular meaning to you?
Two answers here. The ones that have the most meaning to me are most probably the ones I just take of my kids. If I'm honest. Creatively, the picture that I'm most pleased with was one I shot from the Forest series. It'll be 2 years ago now, and it's called The Fox, and it's where I photographed a model called Ivory Flame with a fox in Devon, and that's the best picture I've ever taken.
How much effort goes into setting up a shot like that? I've seen these shots where you've got the model in the woods and animals around, say. How much work goes into preparing a shot like that?
Some of the shots I start planning as much as 18 months ahead of time. With crews of up to 15, 20 people on set. It's big, it's expensive. I do one a year. I may not do one this year because I'm busy with other projects, but I've got a very big one planned for 2016.
Any clues as to what that is?
It's either going to be one thing or another, but it's going to be an animal, it's going to be in the forest, and it's going to be exciting, and it's going to take people to a whole new place.
Fantastic. Well, we'll look out for that one.
Indeed.
Recently you've shot a film, Forge of Avalon. Where do you get your inspiration from?
Well, my colleague Ed Checkley, what we like to do every year is to film a whole new film project for BVE, and we like to show it at BVE and say, hey, this is what we're doing. We like to stay relevant. We like to stay engaged. I don't just want to be somebody who rests on my laurels. I want to go out there, I want to create, then I want to share it with the world. And so Ed came up with the idea, Ed's just over there in fact, Ed came up with the idea of the Forge of Avalon. I made contact with them and the rest is history.
Fantastic, excellent. We'll just wait for this to go on. So how did you get started in photography?
Excuse me, I've had a bit of a cough, sorry. How did I get started? It's a very, very long story. When I was about 14 years old, I used to be really upset. I used to, like lots of kids, you know, very upset because I didn't know what I wanted to do for a living. And my dad bought a Praktika LTL3, and so I started to use that. And of course, it had a Zeiss lens, so the first proper camera I took pictures with was with a Zeiss lens in the shape of a Praktika. I had a great interest in photojournalism even at that age, even as young as 15, and I photographed, I was very much interested in local issues at the time, and there were these lorries running up this narrow stretch of road where people had to hide in doorways to avoid the lorries. So I took a load of pictures. The local newspaper ran them on the front page along with a picture of me, and then they let me work for them in my spare time during my school holidays and on my Saturdays, and they'd pay me in film. And that was 36 years ago this year, so I've been a pro photographer for 36 years.
Wow, well that's really good going.
Yeah, hopefully there's a year or two left in me yet.
I hope so. So what advice would you give someone wanting to be a photographer?
Professional photographer or an amateur photographer?
Professional.
Oh. If you've got a day job, don't give up the day job till you can prove to yourself, till you get too busy that you have to give up your day job. But, you know, you need to be careful when you turn your mistress into your wife, because things might not be quite so exciting anymore. One of my best friends, Yarrick, who does all the amazing photography of all these girls covered in paint and milk, of the superheroes, he's a super successful, internationally acclaimed photographer, and he still works as an architect.
Right.
So bear that in mind. You know, the be-all and end-all isn't working professionally. There's a lot of things I have to photograph that I don't actually like photographing. So, you know, it can be a real challenge to keep the enthusiasm, the passion, and the quality of work to that level.
Right, yes, indeed. And so what would you say was your big break into photography?
The lorries driving on the pavement when I was 15. That was my big break.
Yeah, and it's just gone on from there.
Yeah, I always, you know, I'm the looked camera for this. I always think that people are going to bust me for not actually knowing what I'm doing and for not being the real deal. but no one's found out yet, so I'm going to keep going for a little bit longer.
So if people want to find out more about you, have you got a website?
Yeah, I've got 2 websites. You can check me out on drewgardner.com or on gardnercreative.co.uk.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your time today.
That's great. Thanks a lot, Simon. Thank you very much.